Alright, agents, I'm checking an idea that's probably a pretty stupid idea. And that's using the deflector shield along with my mender. Oh, look at that. That ripped that dude up pretty quick. I like that. So right at the beginning, while we have full health and we don't have to worry about it, we're going to go ahead and try to ramp up some stacks. If we start taking damage, we might use in sync. What's up, agents? How y'all doing? Hope everybody's hanging in there, being as safe as you guys need to be. So this might be my last video for a little bit of time. I'm gonna have to make a video on this. This is my good old Elgato HD60S Plus that just blew up on me last night for no reason. So I have no way to get my game capture for a little bit. It's Black Friday, maybe I'll pick one up today. A little depressed, you know. I just have my 2020 MacBook Pro, $3,500 machine. It's now basically a brick. I gotta get a new motherboard. I'm gonna have to do a video on it, on just this planned obsolescence or just making stuff so it'll break, so you have to get it replaced. It's just sad. But that's not why we're here. Why we're here today, agents, is to talk about, that's right, the Astrone. So, what I'm going to do now is, it's the holiday season coming up. We're going to be hunting for those little loot goblins running around, dropping our good old Slayer. And I'm going to be looking to get my perfect chill out mask. I have a couple different variations of the chill out mask I actually want. But specifically today, I want to go over the 3 platforms that will get us the maximum amount of damage, and then talk about which are the best. We're going to go ahead and rank them. So, it may be a little bit longer of a video. I will cut it up. There should be timestamps down below. I do range damage testing for all of it. And we're just going to kind of break down what my opinion is as to how to achieve the maximum, most efficient results using the Astrone build in the Division 2. Do me a favor, agents, if you find this entertaining and really if you learn anything new today, you get anything out of this, do me a favor, smash that like button. Hopefully by the end of this video, I will have earned your guys' subscription. Best thing you can do to help my channel is to share this video. If you guys see anything you do differently, leave a comment down below. And now that I have to start replacing equipment and all that, you know, I've never done this before, but I know people can get support. I don't know exactly how to do that. If anybody wants to leave a comment on how to go about getting support and stuff, but I will link my Venmo down below if anybody wants to help support me to get some new equipment so I can keep coming out with these videos. That would be awesome. If anybody really wants to help me out, it would be so appreciated. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the Astrone build. Alright, agents, so one of the first things we need to do is talk about the 3 different platforms that we're going to be basing the Astrone off of. So the first one is going with gear sets. Alright, agents, first there's the rigger gear set. I'll link the full rigger video I did right up there. But basically the gist of the rigger gear set is that by enacting with your skills, changing targets, deploying your skill, taking your skill down, destroying a skill will give you a damage bonus, and in certain variations we use where we use the backpack, it basically gives you complete uptime of your skill. So that's the one big advantage of the rigger gear set, is basically 100% uptime of your skills. The second gear set we would be looking at is the Future Initiative gear set. At first glance, this looks like a healing-based gear set. However, the ground control gives a amplified damage bonus to the entire team. So that is the advantage of Future Initiative, is not only giving yourself a bonus, but you can help the entire team. And the third platform we're going to be looking at is based on high-end gear. And this will include names, and as you guys from the division may know, we're talking about our exotic builds, the high-end exotic variations that we can do. And this brings in brand sets. And so the brand set bonuses come into play, so we can build those up and use those strategically, as well as when we're using high-end gear, we get 2 minor attributes, whereas the gear sets, you only get 1 minor attribute. So that's how we can kind of mix and match. And obviously in the gear sets, we have the option to either use 2 high-end pieces or 1 high-end and an exotic. So keep that in mind as we move forward with these builds. Really quickly, and we will cover this, there is one final platform, and that is our what we originally called the purple, blue, green, which we now refer to as our green to gold build. And this is using inferior equipment to still do a superior job. So we'll briefly cover that. Any of you guys who follow the channel for any amount of time, you guys are probably familiar with my green to gold challenge. All right, so for every iteration of this build, the specialization that we are going to choose is going to be the technician, pretty much for obvious reasons. The biggest one is because we get the overclock CPU, so that's a bonus 10% additional skill damage. You don't want to miss out on that. Now, of course, we get the amped, which gives you +1 skill tier, which allows a little bit of freedom to use an armor core or a weapon core in one slot and still maintain skill tier 6. And if you decide to use the card TDI custom, you could even get away with 2 slots not being skill tier and still hit skill tier 6. Not the route I choose, but one to keep in mind for your gameplay. The other reason I choose this for the Faraday field, this means I cannot be shocked or disrupted as long as I'm within range of my turret. And that means also when the warhounds are about to explode, generally I can call my drone back quick enough. As long as the drone is within range of the turret, it will not explode when the EMP blast goes off. One final thing is they get the dismantling, so this is a little bit of bonus damage to dogs, inorganic materials, things like that. Alright, next let's talk about the weapons. It's really easy. You guys can use whatever weapons that you feel most comfortable with. Primary slot, I'm going to go with the capacitor. Obviously, all the testing we are going to do is with the capacitor at max 40 stacks. That's 60% bonus skill damage. If you don't have the capacitor, it's really easy to get at the summit. Just complete 5 challenges, you guys will get it. The next best thing would be to go with the test subject or the harmony. With perfect and sync, you can get an almost instantaneous 40% bonus to both your weapon and your skill damage. So this would be my second choice. You also have the option of going with the surge if you want something like perfect spike. So this is, I consider it an inferior trait, but it does have a long duration. So if you're feeling very squishy, you can go ahead and use the surge and take a shot, proc spike, take cover, and you're good for 27 seconds or something like that. All right, guys, for our second weapon slot, we're primarily going to choose something with utility. The mop for armor and kill, the lefty, stage left for the perfect sledgehammer, and you go with the mechanical animal. I'm so used to calling it the mechanimal now. It's harder to pronounce mechanical animal than mechanimal now. Anyway, you could go with that if you wanted to have your overcharge from the future perfect. Another option, if you're not using the capacitor, if you're using the test subject or any other high-end primary weapon, you could use the Scorpio, and this will allow you to get that debuff, which would actually be beneficial for the entire team. Lastly, for the sidearm, I'd either just go with the backup boomstick or the card TDI custom, depending on which one fits your build better, what you're trying to do. For the perk, I just go sledgehammer or future perfect. My preferred combination, just so you guys know, is the capacitor as the primary, the mop with InSync as my secondary utility weapon, and then the backup boomstick with sledgehammer. That's how I'm running these days. Okay, we're going to be talking about a few different talents. It's very limited. On the chest piece, we're basically going to be looking at glass cannon for that 25% multiplicative damage and taking in that 50% multiplicative damage. We will also be looking at variations with the perfect glass cannon from the sacrifice as well. One variation of this we will be using, and you guys can use kinetic momentum. The only difference between kinetic momentum and glass cannon, ultimately, glass cannon, you take the bonus damage, but all the damage you do is amplified regardless of the source of the damage. Kinetic momentum, on the other hand, almost adds up as much skill damage. It's your drone and your turret will do just a little bit less damage, but it doesn't do anything for your weapon damage. It doesn't do anything else for any, status effects, barrels you blow up, anything like that. And there's the ramp up time. So first of all, you have to deploy your skills, and there's the ramp up time. And then as soon as the skill goes down, your drone gets shot down, you lose half your bonus. So for most cases, I choose glass cannon, but kinetic momentum is the safer choice. Now, as far as the backpack, you basically have tech support or combined arms. They both do the same amount of damage. Tech support, you have to have the skill kill, and then you get that 25% bonus. Combined arms, you have to be shooting every 3 seconds to keep that 25% bonus. And keep in mind, there is the force multiplier with the 30%. So that's the maximum damage that you can get from the backpack, is to use the Hana-U force multiplier for the 30%. So we will be utilizing that in some of these builds as well. Two other things to note: we will be using in certain variations 2 different exotics. The Waveform for the alternating current. So this will give you up to a 30% bonus to your skill damage, which alternates back and forth. This will help to, of course, net the highest amount of damage for your skills. Alternatively, you have the Memento, which right out the gate does nothing for you for the most part, takes a while to ramp up, but then arguably is the best exotic at the game. Once you're at M30, the maximum stacks, you get weapon damage, you get skill damage, you get skill efficiency, you get armor regen, you get bonus armor when you pick up the kill confirmed trophies. There's a myriad of things, and there's a solid argument. I'm not going to show it in this gameplay, but there's a solid argument, and you guys will see in the rankings, that the Memento, when fully ramped up, is probably the best version of this build, even though the drone and the turret do a little less damage than our maximum build here. The amount of damage that you do with your weapon is substantially increased. You have substantially more armor regen, you have bonus armor, and just everything is working better. So keep in mind, the basis of this video is for us to hit the maximum damage that we can hit with these different builds, and then rank which one, based off the damage and then a few other parameters, which one is actually the best build for endgame. Alright, so real quick, we'll talk about the pros and cons of each of the different platforms. So the rigger gear set. The only solid bonus you get from the rigger that you don't get with any of these other builds is that you basically have complete uptime when you use the backpack. So no matter what, you're going to be able to have your skills out all the time. Now the downside, you have to constantly switch targets at the right time to keep each of these skills at their maximum damage. So there's a lot of micromanaging. You throw in the waveform, so now all of a sudden the alternating current, and you're trying to maximize between the two. It's not a lot of fun, and you are not going to see. Overall, you're going to lose DPS. Even though you have ultimate, one argument for the rigger would be, well, your skills are up all the time, so your sustained damage is through the roof. Any other skill goes down, your drone goes down, you've lost that drone damage for a while. Yeah, but the problem is unless you're at max damage with that rigger all the time, I think it's the complete uptime is offset. So I think you ultimately lose out. You have to proactively be working and re-aiming your skills all the time, or you lose your buff. The other downside about the rigger is, and the same for the future initiative, you lose 4 minor attribute slots. So overall, I'll just say that I think the rigger is best if you just happen to have that gear set before anything else. And with targeted loot farming, you should just straight up target future initiative if you want a gear set. It'd be much easier. In fact, of any of these, And so let's talk about that. Future Initiative, the biggest bonus of Future Initiative is you give your whole team an amplified damage bonus. And if you do decide to use the chest piece, it raises it from that 15% to 25% amplified. So that's effectively giving your entire team the glass cannon damage bonus without any of the negative side effects if you decide to go with the Future Initiative chest piece. Now the downside is they have to, and everybody has to be at full armor to get the effects of that. Not too big of a deal, especially if you're running with a healer or anybody has a proper build so they have a way of getting, making sure they're topped off. And the only other negative part about this is, again, you lose those 4 minor attribute slots. So the high end, why go with high ends? Well, you get multiple brand set bonuses that you can mix and match to glorious effects. You have 4 more minor attributes, right? You can easily swap out name pieces, exotics. There's a lot of freedom you have to adjust your builds around new pieces of gear, to try out new exotics, things like that. The only downside that I see, well, there's 2, sorry. The 2 downsides that I see to the brand set bonuses is, 1, you don't get gear set bonuses. And the second one is it's harder to farm up exactly what you're looking for. You can target loot, Future Initiative, go in, and you're going to get a bunch of Future Initiative stuff. If you specifically want a Wyvern chest with glass cannon, you either have to go to chests and hope that Wyvern drops with the right way that you could re-roll it to have it how you want it. The other option you have is to choose Wyvern, go there, and just wait for a chest piece to drop, hoping it has it. So I'm going to let all the damage testing roll out. There should be timestamps down below so you guys can snap to whichever build you want to see. We are going from the lowest damage to the highest damage. But that's not indicative of how good the build is. After that, and so you guys can go ahead and skip if you guys want, we're going to go and break down each of these builds in a ranking system by tier, and then we'll briefly discuss why each one is in the rank it is. And then we're going to wrap it up because this is a long video, and I just wanted to be comprehensive. I really wanted to make sure that I broke a lot of this down. So thank you so much, guys. All right, agents, so all this testing is done in the range. It's all done at 40 stacks of capacitor. If we have the tech support, we will have proc tech support. You'll see those numbers. Every one of these tests is essentially done at the maximum. So we'll either have combined arms procced, we will have tech support procced, you'll have the waveform at max stacks for the specific skill we're looking at. And so every one of these numbers should be the min-max numbers for proficiency level 13. Both our striker drone and our turret have plus 13 damage right now. So that's the numbers you're looking at. Obviously, we have another 7% we could get on top of this. Last note is Memento is in the lowest tier, but keep in mind that's because we have no way of stacking up those kills confirmed to do this. So we will touch base on that at the ends when we get into the tier rankings.
A quick note, agents, neither damage to armor nor damage to targets out of cover will affect the drone or the turret's bullets, and long gone are the days. Rest in peace, damage to elites. Number 10. Number 7. Number 6. Number 5. Number 4. Coming in 3rd place. We're down to number 2. And the winner is...
Pat crotch. Alright guys, thanks for making it up to this point. I know this is a long video, there's a lot of information up in here. So I'm going to run through this tier list pretty quick. So, D tier. In the D tier we have the Rigger 4-piece with glass cannon and the Waveform. And the reason why is this has the lowest damage output. It has high damage intake due to the glass cannon, and it's a pain in the ass to maximize the damage because you're having to deal with both the Rigger gear set and aiming that all the time, combined with the alternating current, which is giving a certain skill the damage at one time. So if you, it's really easy to miss out on being, and just straight up not being able to min-max your damage because everything's in the wrong position. So just really hard to play with, and I do not recommend this version of the build. So for the C tier, we have 3 different builds. So the lowest damage of the C tier would be our Future Initiative 4-piece with glass cannon and the Waveform. And so it has lower damage output. We have higher damage intake due to the glass cannon. And we have the Waveform. Now, the other part about this is that you have to be a full armor, so it's a bit harder in individual solo gameplay, but still a good build. See ranking. Next, we got our Future Initiative 4-piece with tech support in the Waveform. This is running the chest piece, which gives us, instead of 15% amplified damage, 25% amplified damage. So we effectively have glass cannon, right, without any of the negative effects. We're using tech support for that 25% bonus, and then we have the alternating current from the Waveform. So this gives us just a little bit more damage than the glass cannon Waveform build. The only downside to this is you have to get a skill kill to get the tech support going, to get your damage ramped up. Not too hard to do. You also have to be a full armor. Now, the best of the C tier, and believe it or not, we got a Rigger. So we got the Rigger 4-piece with glass cannon and perfect combined arms. Unfortunately, this is still lower damage output due to the need to micromanage the Rigger gear set. We do have the higher damage intake due to the glass cannon, and you have to be shooting all the time in order to keep that perfect combined arms up. So overall, this would be a decent build, except for the fact that you have to do all that micromanaging, and it still can't compete with some of the higher tiers as far as the damage without the utility either. Again, the one plus side to this is, you're going to have your skills up most of the time. Moving on to the B tier. So the first of the B tiers that we have is the Future Initiative 4-piece with glass cannon and perfect combined arms. This gives us both high damage as well as high damage intake. We do have to be shooting the enemies often to keep that perfect combined arms procced up, and we have to be at full armor. So you guys see that could be a little tricky, right? If you have to be up and out of cover shooting, so things are shooting at you, chances of you staying at full armor are a little bit lower than if you, didn't frankly have to be out of cover shooting as much. Now, the other B tier is a high-end build, and it's the high-end with the Sacrifice and the Waveform. And this is actually tied at the highest damage output of any of these builds. And so you'd say, why is it in the B tier if it is the actual highest damage output? Well, because of the highest damage intake. That Sacrifice chest piece we're using, you take 60% multiplicative damage coming in. So, as you'll see, we have a way of achieving the same amount of damage with only 50% damage intake. So, ultimately, if you have the choice between taking 10% more amplified damage for the same amount of output, why in the world would you elect to take that 10% more damage? It makes no sense. That's not just my opinion. It makes no sense. But if you don't have the other pieces, this is how you can achieve the highest numbers is with this build. Moving on, we get to our A tier. We got two builds in the A tier. The first one is the Future Initiative 4-piece with glass cannon and tech support. And this is actually a great build. This thing has good damage. Because of the Future Initiative and the glass cannon, you have 40% amplified damage right out the gate, because when you start an engagement, we assume the enemy is not already shooting you. So you already have 40% multiplicative damage. Makes it easy to get that tech support. Now you got that 25% bonus skill damage right there. So it's got good damage. You do have that high damage intake, but you don't need to be out of cover shooting, guys. You just need a skill kill and to be at full armor. So this is actually a really good build. I recommend this build. And as far as the gear sets, this is the build I recommend running. If you're going to run a gear set, Future Initiative 4-piece, glass cannon, tech support. The only time I would recommend running it differently is if you want to use the chest piece when you're running in a team, so that way the entire team gets that 25% amplified damage when they're at full armor. Food for thought. So the other A tier build we got is the high-end build with glass cannon and perfect combined arms. So, excuse me. So this has great damage output. The downside why it's not S tier is because we have high damage intake and you have to be shooting. The bonus is because we're using high-end gear, you have that second minor attribute, so you can roll armor per second in that slot, which is what I opt for. So this means I can take damage and I just take cover for a couple seconds. My armor will be back to full, and I'll go ahead and start proccing my perfect combined arms again. Now, really quick, we're going to sneak one in. We're going to sneak in the E tier, the exceptional tier. And any of you guys who follow the channel know it's coming. This is the green to gold build. So what this is simply what you guys saw before with the high-end glass cannon combined arms. This is that build, but with purple and blue gear. So what we ultimately are aiming for is blue gear in every slot. You don't have a talent because blue gear cannot have a talent. You have, and it would still be the same damage output. The only downside about using this gear is your armor goes down, so it's just more challenging. But you guys can see we can put out a ton of damage. It's a lot of fun, and yeah, I mean, it speaks for itself. Good damage. You got ramp up time because we're using kinetic momentum. We don't want to use glass cannon because we have so little armor. So it's simply kinetic momentum. You can use either tech support or combined arms. We're going with tech support because obviously we don't want to take that bonus damage. And the other downside is you don't get any proficiency bonuses if you're not using high-end gear or exotics. So it just makes it that much more of a challenge, and you're that much more of a badass when you go whooping ass and getting higher damage numbers than people with full-on gear set and high-end builds. All right, let's talk about the S tier. All right, so the first build I'm going to talk about in the S tier is going to be a high-end with glass cannon and the Memento. With this build, I do choose to go with the Picaro's holster. Yours, that extra piece, you're going to go with 1 Wyvern, 3 Empress. You're going to use the Memento, and then you can swap out any piece with what you want. You know, you could use the Emperor's Guard. You could use, you know, the claws out. It doesn't matter. I'm going for the Picaro's holster in mind because I want that bonus weapon damage, but you get good all-around damage with this build. The only downside is you have the ramp-up time of the Memento. You do have that high intake, but as soon as you're ramped up, that high damage intake is mitigated by the armor regen. It's mitigated by the bonus armor you pick up from the trophies. It's mitigated by the amount of weapon damage output that you're putting out, even as a skill build. And it's mitigated by all the bonus damage that your turret and your drone are going to be putting out. And while I will admit, yes, it will not hit the damage numbers for your drone and turret that you will hit with the next S tier build we're going to talk about, it is close. We're talking about within 4% of those damage numbers. And this gives you all the other bonuses. So my argument would be that this is probably the best build, especially if you're running solo because you won't be competing for the kills, the Memento build. But now I'm going to talk about the other S tier build, which is the easiest build in the game to use. And it's simply a high-end build with glass cannon, perfect combined arms, and waveform. And so you'll be using the 1 Wyvern, the 3 Empress, and you will have the highest damage output possible. Coincidentally, as you guys probably saw in the damage range, we do 1 bonus damage. What is it? Yeah. So we do 1 bonus damage with the drone with this build, but 1 less damage with the turret. I don't even know how the rounding of the math works, but so this is the same damage output as using a sacrifice, but we do not take that 10% extra multiplicative damage using this build. And this is totally AFK viable. Waveform's doing its thing. You don't have to do anything. And provided that you have some armor regen going, you know, you can basically, anything shy of explosions. The only thing you have to worry about in the AFK sort of thing like this is explosion. So, all right. So, real quick, let me just, I got a couple notes on here of why to use things. So, why should we use the rigger? No reason. With targeted loot, just go farm up the future initiative ×4. The future initiative, it gives you a great team buff, especially when you use the chest. It's easy gameplay. It's decent for AFK. The only thing is you got to be at full armor. The high-end build has the best overall utility. You can do lots of crazy combos with exotics, with name gear. It's easy to spec lots of different ways. You can get weapon damage. You can get, with Picaros, you can get melee damage with, what's the word, the claws out. You know, you can get armor per second, you can get armor per kill, you got the Sawyers, you got the Catharsis, you got the Scorpio. This is one of the best builds in the game is using the Astron build. And that power is really displayed in the green to gold build. When you see that you can use the inferior gear and go in and rip up solo heroic like it's nothing. Go into legendary content in a group and you are a champ. Like a lot of the times we put out the most damage to the named enemies, most overall damage with the build that shouldn't. So I do so many builds. There's so many things. I love finding new things, but when it comes down to it, when I don't know what build to use, this is the build to use. So, hey agents, I hope you guys got some good information out of this today. I know that this is a long video. I wanted to try to do it as comprehensive as possible. I know I probably missed a few things. Maybe I'll interject them down in the comment section. Maybe I'll catch them before editing and pop it in there. I want to thank you guys so much for being a part of this. You guys that watch the videos, you guys that comment, you guys that come in game to help me with things. You guys are all awesome. Do me a favor, guys, on the way out, smash that thumbs up for me. Hopefully I have earned your guys' subscription. Best thing you can do to help my channel is share this video. Actually, the best thing you can do to help my channel now, if any of you guys can, I need to get me my new HD60 so I can start doing more content for you guys. So if any of you guys that can donate in any way, it's greatly appreciated. Do me a favor, agents. You guys be as safe as you need to be. It's time to go find those loot goblins, get your Slayer, get your chill out masks. You agents be as safe as you need to be during this holiday season, and I will catch you all in the dark zone. Peace out, everybody. Skill damage one. You guys can see we can actually put out quite a bit of damage. Quite a bit indeed. Just can't compete with those guys with the dude that was running the Eclipse protocol with the Creeping Death. We got our own Imperial Dance Party. You guys know that build? That shit whoops ass. All right.